Welcome to Precision Golf's latest video. We're going to talk today about golf balls. So there's a lot of talk about golf balls of late, the rollback and how that's going to impact the game. So we thought we'd do a little bit on that. So we have Titleist ProV1X, and I picked the higher spin ball because we are going to compare with Titleist Tour Balata. Now, when you talk about rollback, this really is rolling it back. Now, it's not going to go this far back to a wound core around a liquid center, but how much difference can this really make? We're going to do some shots with driver and 6-iron and see, in 30 years worth, how much difference the golf ball has made and really what they can do to limit the performance of the ball and limit the performance of the top players. So we're going to hit shots with 6-iron and driver and look at performance differentials between the two golf balls and really kind of give a straight impact as to how much difference this golf ball has made over the years and why this concept of the ball rollback has actually come into place. How they can limit the top players, the distance they're hitting, and actually make the game a little bit more testable. So I'm going to start with the 6-iron. Going to hit start with the modern ball, start with the ProV1X. And do a couple with a 6-iron with this, and then with the Balata, and then switch over to driver. Then we'll compare the numbers. But to hit with, they're going to feel very, very different. I mean, so construction-wise, you're going from on the Balata, it's a liquid core with a lot of rubber, essentially rubber bands, very basic terminology, wrapped around that core, and then the casing on the outside. Whereas now we're working to a dual core, so 2 layers of core. Solid core, really designed to load, unload, resist that compression, that hit of the golf ball, and to recover its shape very, very quickly, which retains energy, retains stability of flight, and therefore distance. So totally different constructions. See how much difference there is. So one of the things with the ProV1s, it's that familiar kind of punchy, fast sound off the club face, a little bit more of a click, particularly with the harder of the cores within the ProV1X. I use the ProV1X because it is the higher spin of the two balls, so sits a little bit closer to the Balata from a flight point of view. A little heavy, I'll do one more with that. But you can really hear that click off the face with the ProV1s. So much harder sound, so much firmer sound off the face. That stronger energy off the club face as well. So that one, nice solid hit, sent down the middle, hit that well, and that's got ball speeds of 123 miles an hour, which will be very different. I'll toggle over to the Balata on the TrackMan so we can compare the numbers, but it's going to be very different to the Balata when we switch to that. So let's say a totally different construction of ball, and this is going back, these stopped being used in 2000, 2001. So it's been 24 years since these went out. So I mean, the casing, the colouring has gone a little bit, they've yellowed a little bit, which is just the paint on the surfaces has discoloured. But we're going to hear a totally different contact on this. So this takes me back. So just an entirely different contact, totally different sound. I mean, for those of us that used to play these back in the dark ages, the danger with the Balata, because the cover's so soft, was that thin one and you get what I call a smiler. It literally cuts the cover. Go in a bunker and it scuffs it up and ruins it completely. So if you went in a bunker, it was one shot, gone, ball's ruined. Whereas now the covers are so much more resilient. It's unbelievable how far the longevity of the balls come. But it's like hitting, it is hitting a completely different implement. I mean, the balls are night and day now. In terms of ball speed, we're going to see a vast difference. I'll do one more, then we'll compare these. That was a really well hit shot, and we hit 128, I think, ball speed there. That's 121. So very, very different result off the club face. And let's have a look at the numbers and see how they compare. So as you saw from the earlier video, there was one absolute shocker of a strike. I'm actually going to ignore the miss hits, going to take the solid hits, the comparable strikes for the two balls, just so we get a representative difference. And so what we can see here, actually interesting enough with the 6-iron, I got my information wrong earlier. I thought it was 128. I saw the 3 and thought it was an 8. So actually ball speed with the iron is not vastly different. Where there is a huge difference is in the spin. So launch angle with the ProV1X 14 degrees and spinning at 5,600. And then with the Balata, it launched lower, so that softer ball has gripped the face more and pulled that launch angle down a little bit. But the spin on average is 900, almost 1,000 revolutions difference. So what we're seeing there is just purely on that alone, we're looking at a good 6-7 yards. Now, if the ball flights up a little bit and you get into a little bit of wind, that's going to affect the distance even more. So, and bear in mind, this is a higher spin ball than the one I use. I use standard ProV1, which pulls the spin down another 400 revs. So I can get 1,300 revolutions of spin difference just from the ball change. Now, all else being equal, that's then going to put me 7 or 8 yards further on. And factor in, I know contact-wise, I can get that efficiency to 140, 141 out of a 6-iron when I really catch it. So you're then starting to see a good club and a bit difference, maybe even club and a half. Put it into wind, you're looking 2 to 3 clubs. So that's on the 6-iron, and that spin is a huge element in terms of the consistency and stability of ball flight that the pros now get, that all of us now get, where we don't have to fight the conditions as much. But that spin gave that sort of concept of control with the irons. Having that backspin meant the ball landed really soft, but you could hit slightly softer shapes with it and maneuver it a little bit more. So people talk about the artistry you could used to do with the old equipment, that was something that was perfectly achievable. Now also bear in mind, from an iron point of view, there's no tech in this, which is the one I was using. This is my own 6-iron, it's a blade. It's no different, give or take a very small amount of weight positioning, than a blade from 20, 30 years ago. There's still no tech in it, not in terms of face tech and speed-based forgiveness. So actually that is exactly the kind of club head that those Balatas would have been hit with 30 years ago. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to switch to driver and see how much difference it makes with the big dog. So as I've got my gamer driver here, we'll do the same test as we did with the irons. Now, I would expect a slightly bigger difference here. Now, granted, it's with a really well hit ProV1 style ball versus a Balata, looking at about a club, maybe a little bit more once you optimize the spin. So a good 10 or 12 yards. How much proportionally do we get with the driver? Now, I think the construction difference in the ball, this is where it really will start to come into play, I feel. So let's hit them and see how much difference. So start again with the ProV1X. Pretty solid hit, and this is really where the ball speed optimization really starts to kick in. Once you get the driver heads, the swing speeds now, that stability and forgiveness of the club heads allows us to swing a bit harder, but the core of the ball is designed to really retain energy coming off the face. Load up, recover as quickly as possible, which then means you're losing less energy through deformation, through sound, through heat, but also then stability through the air as well. Take those 2 pretty solid hits. Again, that familiar, very familiar pop off the face. Those on ball speeds, 155, 156 on that one, going 294. So really solid contact, good flight data. Now let's see what the softball does. So changing back into the Balata, again, the construction being so much softer in the middle, this is where I think we're going to see more of a drop off in ball speed than the irons. I was actually pleasantly surprised to see how much ball speed the Balata retained with a 6-iron. So again, interestingly, a very different note. You can feel the ball squash against the driver face. It's quite an interesting sensation, whereas we're so used to that ball just pinging straight off the face and almost not loading into the face too much. With this, you really almost get the impression it's squishing against the face and then going off. So very, very, very different feel. Okay, so that one's hit really well. So I think, you know, that one as a comparison, I think it's going to be very, very interesting from a ball speed side of things. You know, that second one, I didn't leave anything behind contact-wise on that one. So, you know, let's get into the data and see where we're at. So, unsurprisingly, I think this is where we're going to see the bigger differences. So, you know, that last hit, as I said, I hit that really well. Looking at 152 miles an hour ball speed. So, your 146 efficiency, that's not bad from that golf ball. What we can see, we're at 148, 149 efficiency with the ProV1X. The first hit of the two of the Balata, 142. Now, I didn't think I mishit that very badly. But that drop off in ball speed, you're looking at, you know, for the same, literally the second hit with the ProV1X, first hit with the Balata is 0.1 of a mile an hour club speed difference. So as good as identical. We've got a 6 mile an hour drop off in ball speed. So just for the ball speed alone, 6 miles an hour, you're looking again 9 or 10 yards. We're also looking at a spin rate that's 500 revolutions higher. So that 500 revolutions then adds that little bit more. We're seeing a 20-yard drop off. So, you know, on average, 294 total distance with the ProV1X, 270 with the Balata. So, you know, and they were well hit shots. A little bit of a lower launch with the Balata as well. So, you know, on average spins up, you know, it's best part of 1,000 revs. That second one that was hit well, the spins popped. So that's really kicked up a certain amount. So potentially that might have been center on the face and a hair lower on the face. But that instability of the ball has really had a profound difference on the distance. So, you know, good ball speed, but, you know, we're back at, you know, that one's actually back at 265, whereas the two shots of the ProV1X are within 0.1 of a yard. You know, that second was 10 yards shorter of the Balata, so the volatility of the flight, no matter how centered on the face, if you go a little low, little high, the spin, certainly low on the face, that spin volatility is really kicked up on the Balata. So, you know, both very square faces. So I've not hit a lot of shot shape, so it's not shot shape that's lost me distance, it's backspin. And this is, I think, the interesting bit when they're looking at the golf ball now. You know, the consistency of flight and strength of flight out of the modern golf ball, you know, really, really apparent on those two. You know, I've got, you know, 33 yards of average run out versus 22 with the Balata. So you're picking up an extra 10 yards on the ground just from efficiency of run out, let alone than the extra, you know, 12 yards I've got through the air as well. Hence, you've got that 25 yards in total. And going back to the rollback element, this is where we're saying, right, how can the game potentially control, you know, limit the distance a bit so that courses don't get completely overpowered. And we look at the reduction in stability of the ball flight, that spin element. If the ball spins more, that really brings the distance back. That means you've got to have control of it in the air from you know, taking on the wind conditions, the air conditions. You've really got to have control of your golf ball. When we look at the Open Championship this year in the wind and the tough conditions, the players in control of their golf ball are the ones at the top of the leaderboard. Potentially, now I'm not saying put a Balata back in play, but if we look at the stability of the ball, you know, there's not a lot of ball speed differential there. So it's the speed on its own. We're looking at 10 yards or so at my speed, and that would graduate back. That wouldn't be quite as much at a lower clubhead speed. But it's that spin differential, and then if you miss-hit one, the punishment you get off the less stable golf ball that really hurts. So, you know, quite a, you know, if we take the 24 yards with the driver, you know, the club with the irons, you're looking at 30 to 35 yards per hole on a 6-iron and driver distance hole. For me, 35 yards differential, that's 3 to 4 clubs, pushing 4 clubs. That then makes a heck of a difference playing into the green. So, you know, the accuracy, the margin of error, the skill required to position that golf ball, you know, that's really where I think, you know, that there is an argument for doing something with it. You know, do we have the 2-tier system, the bifurcation, one ball for the pros, one for amateurs? That's thankfully not my decision to make. I quite like the stability argument. If you reduce something like dimple coverage, you make the ball less stable on an off-center hit, you get punished more. And for the elite players, I think that potentially is where somewhere where you can start to see a little bit more of a separation from a quality ball striker, a quality player. Now granted, they're all brilliant players, but really highlighting that little bit of an extra level by looking at the golf ball itself. So who knows where they'll come out with, but that gives an insight into what the golf ball used to be like. And bear in mind the clubs were a lot tougher, like a persimmon wood, a wooden wood, much less forgiving than this driver back then as well. So that has to be factored into how good those players were back in the 90s and the 80s. Jack Nicklaus all those years ago, playing flawless golf, high skill level. But the swing's different now as a result too. So some big differences there, and I hope that helps kind of get a little bit of a look at yesteryear's equipment, yesteryear's ball with current equipment, and just that on its own, the kind of differences that could be made by changing the ball spec.